So today I'm going to be talking about the short story, The Black Cat, written by Edgar Allan Poe. And to give a quick little summary about it, the story is told from the narrator's perspective, and it sets it up by explaining that he doesn't think we're going to believe what he's about to tell us. And he then explains that he will die tomorrow, but doesn't really explain why until later in the story. So, he begins explaining that he loved animals when he was little, that he really thought it brought him happiness. He then tells us that he married early, and as soon as he did get married, he adopted many animals, like birds, goldfish, dogs, and most importantly, a cat. More specifically, a black cat, which he named Pluto. The narrator and Pluto have a really close bond. Pluto would always follow the narrator around, and Pluto was actually the narrator's favorite animal. Over the years, the narrator became more moody and irritable, and we soon find out that that was because of alcohol, but he began to bring violence upon his wife and his other animals, but he would never hurt Pluto. But one day, the narrator comes home drunk and thinks that Pluto's avoiding him. So in response, he grabs the cat forcefully and the cat bites him. And in retaliation, the narrator actually cuts one of his eyes off and takes it out of the eye socket. And after that, the narrator and the cat's relationship was never the same. After he sleeps off his drunken state, the narrator is horrified about his actions, but it doesn't get him to stop drinking. Soon enough, the cat's eye socket heals, and Pluto's the same, but like I said before, they don't have the same relationship that they once had. Pluto actually starts to avoid the narrator at all time, and instead of feeling bad, the narrator just feels more irritable at the cat. So irritable that one day, the narrator decides to hang the cat in cold blood from a tree. And weird enough, that night, his house burns down. Although all the servants and his wife and him made it out of the fire aren't harmed, the only thing that survived was a shadow of a cat on one wall. So that's a bit strange. And after months pass, the narrator finds a cat that looks remarkably similar to Pluto, except that on his chest he has a white patch. So the cat follows him home, and the narrator decides to keep him. And at first, the narrator loves the cat, but soon enough he can't stand it at all, especially after he notices that this one cat has one eye missing, just like Pluto did. The more that he hates the cat, the more that the cat likes him. But the narrator can't find himself to hurt the cat, probably due to the remorse he felt about hurting Pluto. So eventually, the narrator is driven so mad that he does find it in him to hurt the cat. So he goes to kill the cat with an axe, but his wife intervenes, and instead of killing the cat, the narrator kills his wife. So in order to conceal his wife's body that he feels no remorse for, he opens up a wall in the basement and puts her corpse in there. And after that, the narrator starts looking for the cat, but the cat's missing. And for 3 nights, he sleeps undisturbed by the cat. But then on the 4th day, the police comes and asks him questions about his wife's disappearance. And during that investigation, the narrator raps on the wall that he has rebuilt to conceal his wife's corpse. But the noise of him knocking on the wall causes the cat to howl. So the cat was actually accidentally locked inside of the wall, and this alerted the police to look inside of it and find his wife's corpse. So that's what the black cat is about. So when referring to the context of the text, according to Thomson Gale, Edgar Allan Poe was born January 19th, 1809 in Boston, Massachusetts. where his dad, David Poe Jr., actually left his family. and he moved in with his mother, who died when he was 2 years old. Poe was then taken to family in Richmond, where he lived comfortably, but while he was enrolled in college, he rang up a lot of gambling debts, which caused him to leave his home with no money. Later on, Poe enrolled in an army and enrolled in West Point, where he was actually expelled from. And his life events eventually led to the publication of The Black Cat, first published in 1843 in the Saturday Evening Post, a newspaper at that time. So how did the story relate to Edgar Allan Poe's life? Well, first, there was the death of a cherished woman. So in The Black Cat, his wife dies. Although it is murder, it reflects how his mom died when he was young. And he often includes this event in his writing because his mom died when he was young. Poe was also an alcoholic, just like the narrator. So, The Black Cat, the narrator mentions how there's no disease worse than alcohol. And Poe tended to undermine his own success by consecutive drinking, and actually got into a lot of literacy feuds. Not only this, but according to L.A. Vosselet, Poe had a cat named Katrina, and it was actually a black cat that often perched on his shoulder while he was writing and stayed there observing. Poe even said, and I quote, "Katrina was one of the most remarkable black cats in the world." And it could be inferred that Pluto was inspired by Katrina. So the literary movement at the time, dark romanticism movement began from 1800 to 1860s, and The Black Cat was published in 1843, which was prime time for dark romanticism. If I had to pick one word to describe The Black Cat, the word would be perverse. So perverse means contrary to what is right, and it means wicked and evil in the act. So, according to Martha Wambeck, the reader is told that the narrator appears to be a happily married man who has always been exceedingly kind and gentle, and he attributes his downfall to the spirit of perverseness. So, perverseness, he believes, is one of the impulses of the human heart, that who has not found themselves committing an act of vile or stupid action for no other reason other than that he knows he shouldn't. And perverseness provides the rationale for otherwise unjustifiable acts, such as killing the first cat or wrapping the cane at where he plastered the wall where his wife's corpse was. So guilt about his alcoholism seems to be the narrator's perverseness, which causes him to kill the first cat, and guilt about those actions indirectly leads to the murder of his wife. And the disclosure of the crime, just like the one in Tale to Heart, also written by Edgar Allan Poe, is caused by a weird sense of triumph and consciousness of the murder. And according to Ed Piacentino, he also agrees that other rationalizations follow, including those justifying the narrator's attachment to Pluto, the affection to Pluto, and how he explains his change in mood and his cruelty that came from his change in mood towards his animals, especially Pluto. It also explains why he killed the cat, why he killed his wife as well. Why is it important to the American literature canon? Well, according to Joseph Stark, there is a psychological intensity that is characterized in Poe's writing, especially in the Tales of Horror. His best-known works, actually, such as The Black Cat. And this technique foreshadows the psychological explorations of other authors, such as Fyodor Dostoevsky, I'm not sure, and the actual school of psychological realism. Poe was also able to influence writers like Ambrose Bierce and H.P. Lovecraft, who belonged to a distinct tradition of horror literature that was initiated by Poe and his stories, such as The Black Cat. And according to Shagufta Raham, Poe was actually able to shed a light on the ideas people have never considered, and actually added to the dark romanticism movement and helped create the Gothic genre. In addition to his achievements as a creator of the modern horror tale, Poe is also credited with creating two other popular genres, such as science fiction and detective story. So that's how he was able to inspire the American literature canon and create his footprint in it.